The Italian Radio Hour is sponsored by Istituto Mondo Italiano.
Buonasera a tutti. Good evening and welcome to the Italian Radio Hour. Io sono Stefano.
E io sono Viviana. Stefano, come stai stasera?
Non c'è male, non c'è male. E tu come stai?
Benissimo, benissimo.
All right, everyone. Well, welcome back. Again, we have a pretty full lineup tonight. We're going to have Anna on here shortly, and then we're going to have Claudio on for the second half. Another good episode. We hope you enjoy it. And as always, we want to welcome back our regular listeners. And we also want to welcome any new listeners and anyone listening online at khbradio.com. And again, always be sure to like us on Instagram and Facebook at the Italian Radio Hour.
And as usual, benvenuti ai nostri ascoltatori da tutto il mondo. Grazie per essere con noi anche stasera, mentre continuiamo il nostro viaggio per l'Italia e la cultura italiana.
All right. In our last episode, we spoke with Francine. Fantastic food historian, tremendous amount of knowledge on different cuisines throughout Italy. And again, we encourage you to go out and read her books on Italian culture, Italian cuisines. Again, it's very good stuff. But again, what brings you all here is the phrase that pays. In this case, avere la papa pronta. Cosa significa?
Of course, when you have a food historian, you have to have an expression that has to do with food. And papa is usually the word that we use for baby food. Mangia la papa. But to expect la papa pronta is kind of the attitude of someone that expects to be spoon-fed things to him or her, to have everything done for him. So that's not what is going to happen this Saturday, where Mondo Italiano is going to partner up with Passport to Pittsburgh for a pasta masterclass, where we're going to feature a conversation about the history of pasta, Aperol spritz, antipasti, and then a hands-on fresh pasta class. And so there's not going to be any papa pronta for our guests. They will have to make their own.
So park far away and walk to the class because you're going to need it after you're done eating.
Indeed, indeed. So we thank everyone that sends their answers to our little language trivia. We have as much fun reading the answers as choosing the trivia of the week. And then before introducing our lovely first guest, a little pubblicità. Parli italiano? Do you want to learn, improve, or master your Italian? Istituto Mondo Italiano can help. Located in the heart of Regent Square, Mondo Italiano offers small group classes and one-on-one private tutoring to help you learn Italian in no time. Visit us online at www.istitutomondoitaliano.org. Okay, this is the moment we have been waiting for to introduce our very own first guest, Anna Piperato, Ph.D. art historian, guide extraordinaire, and the founder of Siena Italy Tours. Anna, are you with us? Anna?
Eccomi.
Eccoti! Ci hai fatto prendere un colpo!
Anche a me!
Maybe that mute button needed to be clicked too. Buonasera.
We're starting our dance, by the way.
Yes. So Anna. So we're going to have a lovely and very informative conversation about you, Siena, the Palio, and so forth. So let's start a little bit about your background. From Massachusetts to Siena, obviously as a PhD art historian, I would assume that maybe one of your first trips to Italy was during your studies?
Yes, well, first, buonasera. I'm so sorry about that little blip there, but buonasera Viviana and Stefano and everyone listening. Yes, my name is Anna Piperato, and everyone knows how to spell it here. It's fantastic. But even though I have a very Italian last name, I did not grow up speaking Italian or knowing much about my roots, but it all changed in college with a trip with my family for 10 days to Italy. And then I changed all of my classes sophomore year around taking Italian 101. And that's where it all started. And then I did a semester abroad in Florence, not Siena, from where I'm calling you now, but that began my love affair with Italian art history and the Italian language, and then eventually ended up in grad school and focusing on one saint in particular, Saint Catherine of Siena. ed eccomi qua.
Yes, so for the audiences listening, Santa Caterina was a pretty cool saint. Can you tell something about what made you choose Santa Caterina among all the other saints? What are some of the things that she is remembered for?
Well, Catherine of Siena, Caterina Benincasa, that's her surname, she lived from 1347 to 1380, so a 14th century saint. She was the 24th of 25 children to the same mother. Yet, yes, she did not follow in the... She did not do what she was meant to do, shall we say, for a 14th century Sienese girl. And she dedicated her life to God, and she was a bit of a troublemaker, and that's why I find her so intriguing. She wrote letters to monarchs and even the Pope, and helped bring the papacy back to Rome, because it was in Avignon at the time in the 14th century. In the south of France. Not a bad place, but not where the Pope is meant to be, according to her.
Mm-hmm. So the first time you then eventually got to Siena, I think it was not really love at first sight, because Siena, it's up and down, up and down. You had a little knee surgery at that time. Do I recall correctly?
Many. Yes, many knee surgeries, 2 knee braces, a back brace. So Siena with the hills and I were not friends, and I swore to myself when I saw one hill in particular that I would never, ever go down that hill.
And
I live on that hill.
I was going to say, now you see your videos with your camera just going up. Totally, she's totally in shape and everything. And Piperato, although has not, but it rhymes to me when I see your videos. It's like you're peppery. You're like you're so full of energy. So. The first time that you got to witness, because today we're going to talk deeply about the Palio, because there are so many little secrets you can reveal for us. First time you saw the Palio, can you tell us how you felt? Did you have an idea of what you were watching and the importance of it?
Well, I finished, I did my research for my Ph.D. in Rome, because that's where Catherine spent her final years, and I never really came to Siena. But then after I finished, and before I started a job in the States, I decided that I needed to live in Siena. So I was there for the summer of 2010, and I said, great, I'll get to see this horse race thing. And then, so I had to find a place to live for 2.5 months, which is quite difficult for short-term contracts. But I found a place, and the only place I could find in this entire labyrinthian city was right next to the Contrada della Lupa. And I didn't know what that really meant. I just knew I wasn't near Catherine, and I was upset about that. And not long after I arrived, at the end of June, I lived on the ground floor, and there were all these tables and chairs being set up. So I popped my head out the window, and in my quite poor Italian at the time, I said, what's going on? And a woman said to me, si preparano I cenini. And I said, cinini? Cinino? Chin? What is this word? And I started to learn Sienese that summer, because we don't say cinini in Italian, I don't think. I don't know. It's just like a Sienese term. And she said, would you like to come to a cinino? I said, yes. How many are there? 6. Oh, how many would you like to come to? I said, all of them. And that was right before the Palio. Now, the Lupa was not running the Palio in July, but our rival, the Istrice, the porcupine, was. So there was a bit of tension in the contrada. But in August, neither the Lupa nor our rival, the Istrice, was running. And so it was a perfect time to learn the ins and outs of the Palio without the stress of winning or our rival winning, which would be terrible.
And a lot of people associate the Palio with the horse race. Obviously, it is the horse race. But what is the actual Pallium?
Well, palio comes from the Latin pallium, meaning bolt of silk, because that was the prize for many a horse race throughout the peninsula in the Middle Ages. The Palio of Siena has the distinct honor of being the world's longest continuously running horse race. It has evolved since its inception in the 13th century, but it has never stopped, with the exception for the death of Umberto I, one of the kings of second king of unified Italy, the First and Second World Wars, and now COVID. So we hope to run this summer.
Yes. So before you mention, there are 2 dates, and in one the Lupa and the Istrice. How does it work? How are the teams? How are the horses selected to participate? There is some sort of, let's call it raffle. Maybe you have a technical term for it.
La sorte.
La sorte.
La sorte. So basically, there are 17 districts in Siena called contrade, and they have distinct borders, territories, landmarks, symbols, and colors, and patron saints, and even their own hymns, their own anthems, if you will, and their elected board of officials. The contrada is a part of the Sienese social fabric, and the Palio is the culmination of the anno contradaiolo. It is run on the 2nd of July and the 16th of August, and both are dedicated to the Virgin Mary. She is the protectress of our fair city, and the Palio race is 1 minute and 20 seconds of pure madness. But not just that. It's 6 trial races, and only 10 of the 17 contrade compete in what is surely the greatest exhibition of civic pride you have ever witnessed. And the 10 contrade that run, they are, if 10 contrade run 1 July, that means that 7 don't. So the following July, those 7 run by right and 3 are chosen by lot. Same thing for August. 10 run, 7 don't. So the next August, those 7 run by right and 3 are chosen by lot. Then the horses, right now, they're having all the horses are being tested and tried right now. The horses need to be 5 years old, mixed breed, but you do not choose your horse. The horse is assigned to you by lot. E speriamo che brilla la sorte. And we hope to receive un bombolone e non una brenna. We want to receive a really good horse and not a nag.
So this is it's how close to the race are the jockeys and the horses matched? Is it same day before, a week prior?
Yes. Well, in Siena we say il Palio si corre tutto l'anno, in the sense that the Palio is run year-round because plans are always being made behind the scenes, alliances are being formed, jockeys are being pre-hired, if you will. But when the horse is assigned by lot, by destiny, to the contrada, then the fantino, the mercenary soldier, l'assassino, the jockey, is hired because it goes back to how war was fought in medieval times, in Renaissance times, where you hired a mercenary soldier to lead your army to victory, in this case, the contrada. And then the problem is a mercenary soldier is only loyal to one thing, his purse. And so you never know where his loyalties truly lie. It could be that the Lupa calls a jockey and he says, yes, I'll run for you for X amount of money. And then he waits for a phone call. It could be that the rival calls and says, I'll give you this much money to throw the race.
So to the very last minute, you don't know. So if you were to recommend to someone how to best experience the Palio, probably just coming the day of might be a little too late. How earlier should someone start making their way into Siena? And then maybe we'll focus a little bit about other sites in Siena to start getting to the vibes of the Palio. And are the contrade blocked during the Palio, the actual streets, so that, you're from Istrice, you stay here. You're from Lupa, you stay there.
Well, obviously you need to get from your home to work or whatever, but yes, all of the contrade are dressed up for the Palio, and there are tables outside, and people, usually in Siena, people take off those 4 days in July, June 29th to July 2nd, and in August 13th to August 16th. So if you were to visit, you should definitely not just come for the 2nd of July or the 16th of August, but a few days before. And if you really want to feel the spirit of Siena during the Palio, you should, get in with a local guide, go to a contrada, sit at one of the outdoor dinners that we have after the trial races, to hear the members of the contrada singing in praise of their contrada, which is the best, and insulting their rival, which is the worst. And these are facts, by the way. They're true in every contrada. And then, of course, just feeling the energy, because the first Palio that I saw, I didn't just see it, I felt it, I experienced it. I can still see myself standing in the piazza, just all of my hair standing on end for a good 3 hours. And when the race was finally run, the pandemonium, the jubilation of the winning contrada going to get that pallium, that banner. But it's more than just a prize. It's tangible proof that their contrada is the best. And Siena truly is the center of the world.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine
you can't truly experience it. You can't
goosebumps just hearing you describing it. So I was actually I was lucky enough to see one, and I was I had access to one of those balconies. Would you prefer in the mist, in the square, in Campo, or would you prefer watching the Palio from the balconies?
I really do think that being in the balcony or the stands is the best, especially in the balcony, because then you're even up higher, so you can really enjoy the historical parade, il corteo storico, that precedes the Palio. There's quite a few hours of the armies, quote-unquote, of the contrade coming into the piazza. And so you really get to appreciate the drumming and the flag waving and the beautiful monture, which are the uniforms of all of the contrade. And then when the jockeys eventually come out of the entrone, which is the courtyard of the Palazzo Pubblico, our town hall, and they make their way. This is not a hippodrome, by the way. This is the town square of Siena, the center of the city, really the center of commerce and government since the 1200s. The race was not always raced there, but after Siena fell to the Florentines in the 16th century, they started experimenting with using that as a racetrack. And so the starting line is also the finish line. And if you're in a balcony, you get to see all of the false starts, and you get to see the Fantini jockeying for position, because even the position between the starting ropes is determined by lot. So you could get a really good position or a really bad position, and a really bad position is right next to your rival, because this is a bareback horse race, but you don't have to just, urge your horse along. You can hinder your rivals as well. So if you're up high, you can see all of the action. It does cost, but you won't remember what it costs in a few years.
I have a curiosity. If the jockey falls off the horse, because you say that it's bareback, obviously they're super experienced and whatever, can the horse still make it to the finish line and win, or it has to be the pair, jockey and a horse, making to the finish line?
No. Even the last Palio that was run on August 16, 2019, the jockey fell off and the horse won without a rider. And that is even a better victory, because the horse runs because that's what the horse does. The jockey runs for money and personal glory. The horse runs because the spirit of the Virgin Mary and the freedom of Siena's past is running through its veins. I'm sure that's exactly what it's thinking. And of course, the horse is the hero. Or you laugh, this is true. The horse is the hero or the heroine of the Palio race. And the horse, I don't know what religion the horse is, but that horse is blessed in the church before the race.
Well, indeed, that the baptism there seems to be a much bigger deal than the baptism in church, so to speak, right? The baptism of the in a contrada. And from my understanding, you're actually part of the Lupa contrada, or somehow you're not just a guest. Tell us all the behind the scenes. Tell us how you got this privilege. Share with our audience.
Well, that very first summer I spent here, just 2.5 months, thinking, I'll get to see this race. I was teaching art history at the time to American students, and I was literally next door to the headquarters of the Lupa, across from the social club, and so I just kind of went in. When you see an open door, go in and just be open. And because I'm a professional dork, I really was interested in the history of the Palio and all of the traditions behind it. And then at the end of that summer, they presented me with the fazzoletto. And no, that's not a packet of tissues, but the neck scarf with the colors, in my case, of the Lupa. And then I came back the next year, and I was baptized, a lay baptism, by the president, the elected president of the contrada. And now, I'm very happy to share with you and your listeners, I am actually a part, it's so exciting, I am a part of the Consiglio Generale della Lupa. So I'm on the board, as it were.
Yes.
And part of the archivist committee as well. So,
as an archivist,
paid off.
You probably have access to a lot of also older documentation. And
yes.
Now, as a contrada, do you have anything that you want to share or teach us about the Lupa?
Yes, so when you come to Siena, and I hope you all will for the Palio once in your life, but if you come to Siena anytime between the end of April and the beginning of September, when you hear the drums, follow them, because there are 17 contrade with 17 patron saints and 17 week-long celebrations, because remember, the Palio is all about the contrade. We didn't have the Palio during COVID because without the contrade, it cannot exist. And so the contrada is not a team. Because a sports team back home, the Boston Red Sox did not come to my baptism or my friend's wedding or, my graduation ceremony. They didn't offer to bring me groceries during lockdown. The contrada really is a huge extension of your family. You are born into it. And the first thing that we do after we win the Palio is, of course, we have a celebration and a parade around the city. But then we go to the cemetery to bring that Palio banner and the glory to those who have passed on. So you cannot really compare it to anything because it is unique in the world. There are other Palio races throughout the peninsula, but those have been resurrected after maybe hundreds of years of having stopped, like the Palio of Ferrara, for example, or even the Calcio Storico, the soccer in costume in Florence. None of them have the same continuous history. So please come, but when you come, remember that the Palio is for the Sienese. So learn about it. Do your research before you come. Don't wear a neck scarf of a contrada that isn't competing. And if you see a whole bunch of yellow neck scarves and you're wearing red, white, and blue, stay away. Because you don't want to be in the midst of your rival by accident, because tensions do run high. So just, as anywhere, educate yourselves. But this is not just a sporting event. Palio è vita. Palio is life.
Yeah, it is indeed a way of living a belief, something that you are born into. And I don't know if there might be still the old-fashioned stories and gossips where people of different contradas could not really date one another, but maybe some things from the past. So obviously. You have a beautiful organization, Siena Italy Tours, so it's not just about Siena. I see you on your Instagram account hopping from Florence to another place, experiencing. Let's take us on a. Let's assume we were and spend a week with you, kind of around the Palio, but then we had some extra days. What are some of your favorite either destinations or things to do with your guests?
Well, as an art historian, I got to show you some art. So in Siena, we do have one of the most glorious cathedrals in all of Italy. Yes, I'm biased, but it's also true because we have a totally, the entire floor is marble inlay. It's absolutely glorious with stories from pagan antiquity to the Old Testament and one New Testament story. We have a chapel by Gian Lorenzo Bernini, the architect of the Baroque in Rome, still in its original location with original statues inside. We have works by Donatello. We have the young Raphael and Michelangelo worked in the Cathedral of Siena. It is a feast for the senses and a haven for dorks like me. But you must see the cathedral. Even my father, who said, "Oh God, Annie, one more church." Oh, I like this church. This is a good one. Thank you. Also, our town hall. Our town hall, the Palazzo Pubblico, is incredibly interesting. It was purpose-built for our most successful government, the government of the Nine, which ruled from 1287 to 1355. The town hall was built in 1297, and the mayor still has his offices there today. And of course, it is filled with beautiful frescoes from the 14th, 15th, 19th century even. So you see the history not just of Siena, but of Italy within those walls. And of course, you can imagine if you're there during the Palio, then you can see the dirt in the square that goes all the way into the town hall. And just walking around Siena, you got to earn your pasta. So your pisci in particular, pisci al cinghiale, boar sauce. And we are all hills. So if you go to the bottom of those hills, Siena is not on a river or a port, but we have an underground aqueduct system called the Bottini, and there are these beautiful fountains at the bottom of all of the hills. So you can really do like an urban hiking experience trying to find all of those.
Well, that sounds interesting. And then once we're done, with the city, we can go and do some olive picking, right?
Absolutely. Well, not in the summer, but in the fall, yes.
In the
and
fall.
then maybe go drive through to San Gimignano and see all of the beautiful towers there, or drive to the Val d'Orcia. The drive to the Val d'Orcia is absolutely exquisite. Not just, Siena is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, as is San Gimignano, as is the center of Florence. But the Val d'Orcia is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site because that wonderful symbiosis between man and nature, the rolling hills that cannot be changed. They're protected and glorious. And then you go to a pecorino farm or go to Pienza and admire the Renaissance ideal city as you sip some Brunello or Nobile di Montepulciano, have some pecorino cheese and some pisci al cinghiale. I mean, really, there's nothing better.
Mamma mia, mi hai fatto venire l'acquolina in bocca. And with this lovely image, unfortunately, we have to say our goodbyes. But this is going to be only the first time. You are such a lovely guest. We would like to bring you back at some point in the future, maybe discuss something else. And I do encourage all our listeners to go onto the website of Siena Italy Tours and also look for Anna Piperato on Instagram. Again, beautiful tours and pictures. And as you can definitely feel, she's a very effervescent guide. She's going to make you go up and down those hills. But for now, we would like to say our arrivederci. And I have a feeling I'll see you this summer in Italy.
Spero proprio di sì, grazie mille, grazie a tutti e buona serata.
Grazie, buonanotte. Ciao, ciao.
Grazie, sì, infatti io vado a letto. Buonanotte, ciao.
Buonanotte. So, before introducing our second guest, a little pubblicità. Applying for dual citizenship? Need documents translated? Istituto Mondo Italiano provides certified translation and interpretation services in 20 different languages. Be sure to visit us at istitutomondoitaliano.org.
All right, welcome back, folks. We're going to introduce our second guest. We're kind of bringing things a little more local. We're going to introduce Claudio. Claudio, are you there?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Thank
Claudio.
you for having me.
No problem. Appreciate you coming on and appreciate your time. And it has been a long time trying to get you here. So, again, thank you very much for joining us. And, folks, Claudio's going to tell you all about who he is. But, again, I want to kind of start. Claudia, I want to always start at the very beginning. Obviously, you had heard our show very early on, and you were kind of interested, and you kind of reached out, and you said, hey, that show looks very interesting, because obviously you have some Italian roots. So what I want to do is I want to just start very beginning, very basics with you and say, tell me about your Italian roots.
Well, yeah, and that's what attracted me to you, because I think it's important that all of our Italian roots are not forgotten. And that's something that my parents made sure of every single day of my life, keeping the traditions, knowing about our family history. Like some people, when you ask them, oh, you're Italian, what part of Italy? And they don't know. And that bothers me, to be honest with you. But my family, my mom and dad are both from Calabria. My dad is from Falerna. My mom is from Nocera Terinese. My dad came here when he was 8. in 1936, and my mom came here when she was 22, when she married my dad in 1963. And my entire family is from over there. I still talk to my family. My aunt, my mom's sister, still lives in Nucera Terinese, and my uncle, on my mom's side, moved to Milano. He married a girl from over there, and I talk to them weekly, either on the phone or on Skype. And I have some cousins over there, so it's just nice to still keep that connection. And I was there many years ago, and again, it's just very nice to keep that connection and keep that going with my daughter, who we named after my mom. My mom's name was Ida. We used the Italian pronunciation Ida, and my dad's name was Olindo. And but yeah, and my wife is Italian as well. But we definitely teach my daughter the traditions and the values, and make sure that she knows, again, where the family's from and how to articulate it, and so forth, and be very proud of it.
Well, the funny thing is, as you said, you tell people where you're from, or you ask them where you're from, and even if you tell them the area, they're from Abruzzo. Where's that at? I don't know. It's in Italy, So
right.
So yeah, but and again, that was our whole point. You and I had talked before, and that was kind of the whole gist was to emphasize the kind of the roots, the connection, because one of our earlier guests talked about when his parents immigrated here, and he was born here. And when I asked him, I said, "Well, did they teach you Italian?" And he said, "No, they back then they didn't." So you were born kind of in a later generation where they weren't necessarily kind of not teaching you, language and cultural stuff, because early on when they immigrated, they wanted to assimilate. But you seem like your family kept that culture. And I believe you said you speak a little Italian too from your family, having learned it.
Right. Well, it's funny because when I was in Italy, I would obviously call my parents and my mom. I spoke to my mom in English. She spoke to me in Italian. So that's how I learned Italian, and that's how she learned English. But my dad, unless he was mad at me, always spoke to me in English. And so that's how I learned it. And, for me, if I had to learn something now, okay, my mom used to say, give me, in Italian, of course, give me the kid, you take the adult, right? It's easier to teach a kid than it is an adult. So if my mom didn't talk to me from day one in Italian, it'd be, for me anyway, it's a lot harder to learn something at this age 57. But like I said, it's I miss my parents like you won't believe. I talk about my parents constantly, and I was blessed to have the parents that I have and had. And before my dad got here, my grandfather came here from Falerna by himself at age 15, and he came to Swickley, where I live now. But then he moved to it's called Lilitz. It's out towards Johnstown, and he worked in the coal mines. And of course, all the Italians back then, the goal was come to America, work, raise your family, make money, then go back to Italy. And my grandfather did that, except he came here when he was 15, and he left when he was 85. So, but he wanted to go back. But my mom and dad obviously stayed here, and. But yeah, that's like I said, every day, and not just the food stuff, or that it was more of the history of Italy and being proud of where we were from and knowing about it, and again, the teachings, the ways of the Italians back then, the work ethic, the loyalty, that's what was instilled in me from day one.
That's funny you said that he wanted to go back, because a lot of people don't understand when people immigrated here back then, it wasn't like hey, I can't wait to leave my family and never see them again. It was like
right.
I need a job, so I'm going to go over there and they're going to have this opportunity for me. The other funny thing was you mentioned coal mines, and I never realized. I was just talking to somebody today, and he said the same thing. He's like, oh, my grandfather came over, they worked in the coal mines. I don't think people understand how many Italians worked in the coal mines in West Virginia, Western PA. There were a lot. And, that was one of the famous mining accidents in West Virginia about 100 years or so ago. I mean, a ton of them were killed. And again, these are those they're like little things that are the roots of who you are. And that's why I say I think that's important to remember that.
So by listening to previous conversations and interviews that you had, and also talking about your values and your attachment to your parents, and in your introduction, we forgot to mention that also you are an author. And I have a feeling that some of those teachings and the way that you want to pass some of that wisdom to people that get into sports are indeed a relevant part of the nature of the book. Would you agree with that?
Very much so, very much so. And again, watching, and there's a chapter in my book that obviously I dedicate to my parents and the things that they had to go through. It's a book on leadership. My mom always used to say, never speak from the neck up, speak from the heart up, right? They will go to. And so I turned that around for the title of my book, Lead from the Heart Up, Not the Neck Up. And in other words, be passionate about what you're doing, care about the people that you're working with, coaching or working or who are working under you. And but I saw leadership values here at my own house. How my dad got sick in 1969. Long story short, he ended up developing a phobia where he couldn't leave the house. And I saw how my mom took over. And then I also saw how my dad came back and took care of all of us, and we all had a fantastic life. He provided. So it's easy to lead when things are going well, but it's much harder when things are difficult. And I learned from them, and a lot of the things that they did and the things they taught me and the way they treated me and the way they treated everybody, that's in turn how I treated and treat my players at Carnegie Mellon and the other schools that I've coached at. So I always say that if I dropped a pencil, there was a lesson behind it. Okay, I was always being taught, and I do the same thing with my daughter, constantly teaching. I never have to change my daughter, just like my parents never had to change me. But I learned so much from them, and my daughter has. I'd like to think she's learned so much from me as well. So it all starts with my parents. Everything, my career, the life I have now. A few years ago, 2016, I won the Italian American Coach of the Year from the National Italian American Sports Hall of Fame. And the very first thing I said after I thanked God was an old Italian saying, "If you ever see a turtle on top of a fence post, he didn't get there alone." And if it wasn't for my parents, their belief, their work, their support, their love, their defending of me and my dreams and goals, I guarantee you I wouldn't be coaching college baseball, I wouldn't be scouting professionally, I wouldn't be doing shows, writing, but nothing. It all started with them. And boy, was I blessed to have parents like that.
Yes, and I believe also your mother maybe left you a little too soon, and maybe the idea of giving up on the sports, I think it was your father's intervention. Is that your mom wouldn't want this, and it kind of gave you that wake-up call, and you went all the way to the finish line because you have had a beautiful, brilliant career in the world of baseball. Right.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. And yes, my mom, unfortunately, and it's been 34. It's going on 34 years, and I still, get choked up thinking about it. But she passed away at age 48.
Sorry for bringing it up, but it was such an important figure in your life, and again, it goes back to the teachings and.
Right. No, I always talk about her, and it's a must. It's a must for me. And yes, she passed away, but she loved me and believed in me like you won't believe. And she was also a great teacher. But when she passed away, I had a lot of other family members who wanted to see me fail and all that kind of stuff and weren't very supportive. But anyway, when my mom passed, I'll never forget, I held her hand and she passed in my arms. And then, of course, at the funeral home, at the viewing, I held her hand and I was in tears, and I gave her a kiss, and that's the first time my mom ever kissed me back. And my dad came over to me. He says, "I know what you're thinking," because I didn't give a damn about baseball anymore. I was done. I just was done. I was just going to quit my dream and just move on with my life. I had no heart for it anymore. And my dad came over to me, and he said, "I know what you're thinking, but you promised her that you wouldn't give up. And she didn't give up for you. Her whole life was wrapped around you and achieving your goals and dreams. Now you do this for her. Don't give up." And I swear to you, it's like as soon as he said that, I could still see his hand being placed on my hand. And it's like, you hear the Rocky theme. I said, okay, it's not going to be easy, but I'm going to get up and I'm going to dust myself off and I'm going to make this happen. And thank God things went the way they did.
And you know what? And I want to kind of segue into that because you've obviously had a pretty solid sports career. You're currently coaching at CMU right now. You know, tell some of the listeners, where'd you play? Where'd you coach before? We're curious.
Well, again, the dream started August 19th, 1973. I was 8 years old. My uncle used to work at Three River Stadium, and he brought me to my first Pirate game. And I knew right there something was going on with me. I really liked the atmosphere and what I was seeing and feeling. And I came home, and my dad asked me if I had a good time. I said I did. And I remember I was 8 years old. I said I did, but I know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. And he put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, if that's what you want to do, then me and your mom will do everything we can to make your dreams come true, give you every opportunity. And my mom, said, of course, whatever you want. I was 8, But from there, I was a very good player at Quaker Valley High School, different all-stars, whatever. I was good. Had some pro ambitions. I had 3 tryouts. 2 of them I was hurt. The third one I was perfectly healthy, and I just didn't do well. And of course, my size, I'm 5'6.5", 5'7" on a good hair day. I just didn't do well. Plus my size didn't help it. But I had already had 5 years of coaching and then I was named head coach at age 23 at Quaker Valley High School here in Swickley. And then from there, I went to Penn State Beaver. I was head coach there for a year, and we won a championship, ironically, on my dad's birthday, October 8th, 1990. That was also the 2-year anniversary of my mom passing, October 8th, 1990. She passed away in 88. So we won the championship on October 8th. And from there, I went to Community College Beaver County, an assistant at Duquesne University, disappeared for a couple years. Then I started at the bottom again. No offense to Quigley Catholic High School, but I was an assistant coach after reaching Division I level and winning championships as a head coach in college. I was coaching at Quigley Catholic High School for a whopping $800 a year. But I loved the 2 years there. And then from there, I got a job as a professional baseball scout. My dream came true. I wanted those 3 words next to my name, and that was pro. And James Gamble of the Global Scouting Bureau gave me a break of a lifetime.
Wait a minute. Are you scouting for the Pittsburgh Pirates? Because if you are, you and I got to talk.
No. They'd be smart to use that more.
We are not going to open the phone lines up if they find out you're scouting for this team.
The company we work for works for everybody. Major Leagues, independent, overseas, Asian market, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, you name it. And we've sent players everywhere. And then in 2001, I got that job. In 2002, I was named general manager, and I still have that same job. And I've been offered other pro jobs. I've turned them down because I like working for this company. And I got the head coaching job at Carnegie Mellon in 2005. And I want my cake and eat it too. I want to coach. I want to work in pro baseball. Want to coach college, do training, do all my shows. But I live in the same house I grew up in. And I wanted stability for my family, my daughter. And I've never missed my daughter's events. My wife and I, there's one, well-known Major League Baseball guy. He said, Claudio, you're very rich. And I said, what do you mean? He says, I didn't know my kids until they were in their late 20s. Mm-hmm. And he was divorced a couple of times and all that. And not that I would have been divorced or anything, but again, it wouldn't have been the life that I have now.
Oh, yeah,
the travel.
Absolutely.
So I used to have to travel a hell of a lot more than I do now, but like I said, it works for me. And I turned down several pro jobs, and Jim Valvano, who was a dear friend of mine, used to say, "Don't mess with happy." So I don't mess with happy.
That's good advice.
So and then from there, like I said, I've been fortunate enough to do a couple TV shows, some podcasts, write the book, and do some speaking. And so I've been. My prayers consist of thank you, because again, my dreams have come true and then some. And I worked very hard, and a lot of rejections, a lot of failures, a lot of disappointments, a lot of tears, a lot of anger. But a
lot of persistence too.
You're Italian.
Yes,
you're.
So
right.
talking about broadcasting, and I know that we do have a friend in common, Alan Levine and Jim Fraser. And Alan Levine, the talking machine. I was actually on his show a couple of years ago waving my asciugamano terribile, because we do have a Roman version of the terrible towels. So can you tell us maybe of a memorable interview that you think our listeners would want to hear with any of your guests?
First of all, Smokin' Jim, love Smokin' Jim. We do several shows together, a boxing show and another show with Luther Dupree Jr., another show called Steel City Sports World. But some interviews that I've done, one of them was Mario Andretti. Obviously, a crossover
That's where I get
megastar.
my driving skills from. I'm kidding.
That's where she learns how to drive.
I mean, I'm talking to him, and I'm like during the interview, and we've written back many times and all that kind of stuff, but I'm talking to him, and I'm saying to myself, what am I doing talking to Mario Andretti? You know, and he made you feel so. As a matter of fact, he corrected me during the show. He said, look, and he kind of got a little upset. He says, look, I call you Claudio, you call me Mario. I never forget that. But I remember I was 4 years old. And I don't remember too much from yesterday. I was 4 years old. I was in our hallway, and I remember my mom saying, Andretti ha vinto, Andretti ha vinto, Andretti won. That was in '69 Indianapolis 500. And here I am interviewing him, right? And I've interviewed, just on the Italian side, Vince Ferragamo, the quarterback of the LA Rams, Vinny Pazienza, former 5-time world champion, who's like a brother to me, Paulie Malignaggi, former 2-time world champion, and then Jerry Cooney, the boxer. Like the room that I'm doing this interview right now with you is now, it used to be my old bedroom, now it's my home office / studio. And I'm looking at the spot where there was a TV, and Jerry Cooney fought his famous fight against Ken Norton in May of 1981, where he knocked him out. And here I am doing an interview with him over the phone, of course. And Jerry and I have become friends, and it's crazy. And sometimes I get invited for the past 20 years to play in some celebrity golf events, and I'm talking to guys who are playing golf with Rocky Blyer, and he's been on my show, or guys like that. And sometimes I stand back and I say, what am I doing talking to these guys, But yeah, as back to the show, your original question, I guess Andretti was the one that really, again, what am I doing talking to this guy? That was very...
I'll tell you one.
It was great.
I'll tell you one thing, though. I've learned a long time ago is everybody gets up in the morning and they put their pants on one leg at a time.
No question.
And that's what it comes down to. The big one that Vivian, wait, real quick, because this is an important one. Franco Harris. I mean, come on. Have you interviewed him?
I didn't interview him. I took a nice picture with him. We played in a celebrity golf tournament together at Allegheny Country Club, and he talked about going to Italy and things like that. And I eventually will have him on the show, but I'll probably see him. I definitely will see him at one of the golf events this year. Yeah, he's an iconic guy as well, for sure, and a very nice man. And real quick, you mentioned they put their pants on one time, and there's no question about that. Like Andretti is who he is, Franco is who he is, but I know some people, and so do you, both of you, who haven't come close to accomplishing what those guys did. And you can't put their heads in a house; they're so big, And Ray Boom Boom Mancini, another friend of mine, he always says it's a quick trip from the penthouse to the outhouse. So you kind of keep things under control.
Well, we're going to put a call out to all our listeners, and you included. If you have a way of getting hold of Frank, please email us at theitalianradiohour@gmail.com, because I think he will be a fabulous guest to have on the show. So we count on you and your network to help us.
I'll work on it.
Everyone listening, you have ways of getting hold of us. I think he's an icon that we have because of his contribution also with the Italian Army and being the Lucchesi nel Mondo Society. So I know that someone out there in Pittsburgh knows how to get hold of him. Please put us in touch with him.
You got it.
Finally know Viviana's sports hero is.
Right.
All right. Listen, Claudia, before we go, I'm going to ask you one more kind of, for our listeners.
Yes, sir.
You've been coaching for a long time. You've been involved in sports for a long time. If you had, a lot of listeners, a lot of parents listening, maybe players listening, what advice do you give people that are trying to get into sports? And I'm a former coach myself, so I won't tell you what I'm going to think. I'll tell you when we're having a beer, I'll tell you what I think. But I want to hear what you think. What advice would you give to these folks?
Be persistent. When you get knocked down, and you will get knocked down, the Italians, again, have a saying, fall 6 times, rise 7. Be persistent. Work hard. Be damn good at what you do. Be passionate about what you do. And once you do get there, make sure you have impact on people. Jim Valvano, again, used to say his favorite word in the English dictionary was the word impact. And so many people have had impact on me, and hopefully I've had some impact on people. But you're going to get knocked down. And be laser focused. For me, I was told it wasn't going to happen. I was made fun of. It's a pipe dream. You're buffaloing everybody. You're never going to make it. You're going to fail. I just kept dusting myself off and using my worst enemy to be my best ally. As important as my parents were, that motivated me, and I wanted to succeed for them, I also wanted to make sure that the people who wanted to see me fail, I wasn't going to make them happy. And like I said, it comes down to just working incredibly hard and not giving up. As cliche as that sounds, that's how I got from point A to point B. A lot of disappointments, a lot of rejections, a lot of people got ahead of me at the time that weren't as good as me, and I got disappointed, but I didn't give up. I kept at it.
So before saying our goodbyes, tell us a little bit about your book and the expression you mentioned before from your mom. Is that the inspiration of the title of the book?
Yes, very much so. Yep. Before I would leave the house for a game, she'd give me a hug and a kiss. She would say a couple of things. Mucho cuidado tua, show them your courage. And she would, I almost named the book that'll be a different book, maybe a biography, which kind of goes to what Stefano asked, that question. So again, showing your courage. But my mom always used to say, never speak from the neck up, speak from the heart up, right? In other words, sometimes people say, oh, how are you? And they really don't care. When my mom asked you, how are you? She really meant, how are you? And that's what she instilled in me. So the title of the book, Lead from the Heart Up, not the neck up. Dick Vermeil, another Italian, a friend of mine who was also on my show, who's in the NFL Hall of Fame this year, he used to say, your players or your people, they won't care how much you know till they know how much you care. Okay? Mm-hmm. And this book just isn't for sports. It's for anyone in the leadership capacity. So, again, yes, my mom, I just turned that phrase around a little bit. And, Tom Hanks in that show, I forgot what it's called, he said, there's no crying in baseball. Well, my players know, I'll be upset, I'll laugh with you, and I'll cry at the drop of a hat, and that's just who I am. That's the Italian in me. I'm passionate. That's who I am. And, again, everything is from the heart up, everything I do.
All right, Claudio, again, listen, thank you again very much. We are hoping you'll be back, and we're going to talk soon, you and I. So take care again. Yes. Thank you very much. It was good advice, and look forward to working with you in the future.
Yes, thank you both so much. Continue the great work. Keep accomplishing, and you guys are doing a fantastic job, and it's important. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, looks like our hour is almost up. And again, I want to, we're going to say it's our Arrivederci alla prossima. But before we do, I just want to let everyone know that this will actually be my last broadcast. Again, I want to thank everyone that's tuned in and listened and supported me. I appreciate that very much. Viviana is going to keep this thing running, and I hope that you continue to support her. Tune in Thursdays at 5 p.m. And again, as always, if you have any comments, suggestions, feedback, you're always welcome to send them to the ItalianRadioHour@gmail.com. I know Viviana would love to hear from you. I know when I was participating, I love to read them. So again, I thank you all for your support. And again, keep supporting Viviana.
Okay, so in bocca al lupo, first of all, and so this is life is what happens when you're busy making plans and the conflicts of schedule, but we are ready to present you with two additional guests. Next week, we will have Angelo Carotenuto will talk about women in ancient Rome, and then our very own Chris Fenimore, a Pittsburgh icon who spends several months every year in Rome, who will share with us his typical day as a temporary Roman. And as a reminder, for any of you and your friends and family, who might have missed our episodes or would like to listen to them again, please visit our website at www.Istituto Mondo Italiano. Click on the Italian Radio Hour tab. Vorrei ringraziare la nostra ospite Anna e Claudio, our sponsor Istituto Mondo Italiano, e alla Boara for the music, e Caterina in redazione. Finally, before we leave, here is the trivia for next week. What does nascere con la camicia mean? Again, what does nascere con la camicia mean? Be the first one to answer correctly by sending your answer to the Italian Radio Hour at gmail.com. Again, the Italian Radio Hour at gmail.com.
And again, thank you all for your support. Continue to support and tune in on Thursdays at 5 p.m. If you are not in the Pittsburgh area or might be traveling, remember you can catch us streaming live at khbradio.com every Thursday at 5 p.m. And be sure to like us on Instagram and Facebook at the Italian Radio Hour. Until next time, alla prossima.
Ciao, ciao.
The Italian Radio Hour has been sponsored by Istituto Mondo Italiano.